I swear a lot.
It is 10:07 in the AM, and you're listening to or watching The Foreman. I'm your host, Foreman, and I had this idea and then almost completely backed down from it because it's actually somewhat embarrassing. But I thought to myself, you know what, today I want to continue the streak of recording a Foreman Talks on the same day that I record everything else. So then I can pop it out at the end of the day so we're not missing an upload, right? Except for Sunday, because I'm trying to take Sundays off because it seems like a good idea. Point is, I was like, I'm going to do it as soon as I wake up. And then I woke up at like 10 and I was like, that's going to be embarrassing to admit in my intro that I wake up at like 10 a.m. every day. And I was half tempted to lie and be like, it is 7 a.m. sharp and in the a.m. and you're listening to The Foreman. No, but it is emblematic of how fucked my sleep schedule has gone. You know, I remember there was a time when I actually had my sleep schedule kind of under wraps as an adult. Like I'd actually gotten a handle on it. More specifically, I had a handle on it back when I was working as a water treatment engineer because I had very specific times I needed to be up for. Indeed, I remember in December of that year when I was fucking sick as a dog and we were just doing jobs every day in London. It was like be up at 6 and be ready to go at 7 and be home at like 9 p.m. And that was a rough time. I remember that. But my point is that I had like a proper sleeping schedule back then. What killed it, I think, because I still maintained a decent sleeping schedule after I left that job to pursue this full time. What actually killed it was the release of Helldivers 2, which is simultaneously weirdly specific and also really not surprising. But I remember there was a specific time where, I think it was maybe a month or two after Helldivers 2 came out, where a bunch of us got really into it, and I would frequently be up at like until like 2 or 3 in the morning every single night playing it, and then also doing my job, getting up the next day, right? Since then, since about a month or two after Helldivers 2 released, I have just not had a good sleep schedule anymore. It actually permanently crippled my sleep schedule, which is not great. Not a fan of that. But, I mean, it's worth it. Helldivers 2 is fun now, but early Helldivers, when it was all fresh and new and strange and interesting, was the absolute fucking tits. Loved it. So how are you all today? I hope that your sleep schedules are better than mine, and if they aren't, well, I hope you don't mind too much. I hope it works for you, I should say, as long as it fits into your daily life. That's really the main thing. I can make this fit into my daily life. I yearn for the days when I could look at the clock, having just woken up and it wasn't already in double digits. I wanted to talk today. I have a vague idea for a topic which I'm going to attempt to adhere to some degree, but I reckon we might end up swaying and straying off course and waffling and having many divots in our conversation. But I wanted to talk about the effect of balance in games in regards to, like, obviously there's the practical applications of actual balance in actual hard gameplay, right? Like, how well is this game balanced? Is it fair for the player, etc., etc.? And I also want to talk more about how balance can affect the feel of a game. Is this appropriate? Should you be challenged here, or should you be super fucking, like, overpowered and just crushing everything in front of you? This comes up a lot, I find, when playing a selection of things. Mods, especially, this becomes a conversation. Indie games of like a certain level of smallness, because everything isn't quite so thoroughly tested. And also, I'd say the more obscure you go into indie, the more you're willing to find people who are willing to break convention and just kind of do their own thing, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. I'm not praising the auteur mindset as being nothing but positive and making the best shit ever. Sometimes conventions are there for a reason, but also conventions are there as guidelines, and guidelines can be disregarded. You can springboard off them to make your own thing, but it is a different topic. So mods, indie games, fan games, I suppose. I've been playing Chapter Master, and that's balanced like a fucking plate on a needle. I realize that's not fucking clear. It's not balanced at all. But I thought about it, and I've been thinking about it, and it's kind of tucked away in the back of my mind, because Barotrauma 40k is an easy example to use, because I've recently talked about it, and it's what I've been playing a lot at the moment. But Barotrauma 40k is balanced much in the same way that all stuff in Warhammer is balanced, both fantasy and 40k. Which is simply, if we make everyone stronger and overpowered, then everyone has a strong and overpowered counter for everyone else's strong and overpowered shit, right? The Imperium of Man has like 1,000 fucking drop pod deploying demigods. On the other hand, the Necrons can push a button and an entire star system goes fucking nova. Everyone has overpowered shit that they throw at each other constantly, and this mod feels like it leans into that with its balance and lack thereof. You start off with Hellguns on your submarine, which are ridiculously overpowered and can absolutely crush crawlers, mud raptors, watchers, hammerheads. Hammerheads take a little bit more, but still. Hammerheads, mantises, threshers, like, you're well set. The game then balances this out by, to begin with, it doesn't send more at you, it gives you a chance to come in and get comfortable, but then it starts sending more and more at you. I'm also pretty sure they've either completely reworked how the cavern reacts to you being there over an extended period of time, or they're taking a mechanic from later areas, but I can be hanging around somewhere in the cold caverns, like say I'm fucking plumbing a wreck or something, and I will notice that not on the dot periodically, but just generally periodically, I'll be like, oh, okay, a couple crawlers showed up. Okay, there's a couple husks. All right, some mud raptors showed up. All right, some threshers showed up. All right, mantises are showing up. All right, we're getting attacked more and more frequently. Okay, hammerheads are coming. I was in the cold caverns and I had 2 Molochs show up. Now, Hellguns are good, but they're not that good. I had to run away. I had to abandon the wreck and keep going, which is respectable in its own way. But it's interesting to play a game where balance is a suggestion rather than what actually is intended. I don't doubt that the modder has done some balancing, because the actual moment-to-moment gameplay is still relatively structured and not completely ridiculous. I'm not accusing them of doing absolutely no balancing whatsoever just because the balance is a bit skewed at times. But it's interesting to see that they looked at this and went, okay, if we're going to give you big guns, we're going to make you use them. We're absolutely going to make you use them. If we're going to make you overpowered, we're going to give you something to use it on. And it's interesting because I personally go through phases in terms of my gameplay enjoyment, right? And I guess at the moment, I've been enjoying playing shit that's just not particularly balanced. And I don't necessarily mean that as a bad thing, it's kind of what I wanted to discuss today. But Baratron 40k is not balanced. Warhammer 40k, the XCOM mod, is not balanced. I really enjoy playing Baldur's Gate 3 Honor mode, which is balanced, but balanced to be really fucking hard. And you can do your own shit to counter that, but I'm not going into the specifics of an Honor mode run in Baldur's Gate 3 on this video unless you want me to. JK, unless... Alright, we'll leave that for another time. But it's a conversation that I believe pops up for me because I play a shit ton of mods. So the thing is, like, you get many mods out there that posit to basically just make you more powerful. By granting you more combat options and more equipment options and stuff like that, more mechanics, you inevitably end up making the player stronger. The reason I haven't played an absolute shit ton of these mods is because I need stuff that makes the enemy stronger too. I can't have it all my way. I don't want god tools. Otherwise, it's just not interesting. I don't want to just flatten the opponent with absolutely no chance of reprisal. They need to hit me back. It's one of my biggest... Regrets is a strong word, but perhaps regret would be the word to use. It's one of my biggest regrets about Season 2 of XCOM. It just wasn't... The balance wasn't quite right, you know, that mod list just didn't do quite what I wanted it to. The classes we got were just a bit too strong. I maintain that having the Titanfall mech, you know, the Avenger, having that with the oh god, what was that Titan called? With the machine gun, with a big fucking minigun, it's bulky as hell. I want to say it's called Legion. Doesn't matter. Point is, those Titanfall mods for that spark were a bit much. The classes were way too much, and I do wish that Season 2 had been a bit more even. We did struggle. Don't get me wrong. There was struggling to be had in that fucking series, for sure. There were moments where it looked like we were fucked. But after a certain point, it was like, yeah, the successful completion of this series is now a matter of when, not if. And I'm not in love with that. I want it to be a struggle. I want there to be genuine adversity basically the entire way through, not just on camera, but off camera as well. I want that in my personal life. I, weird as it sounds, relax at the end of the day by engaging in a struggle, because I believe that fully investing myself in a difficult gameplay challenge, whether it's short-term or long-term, helps me shut my brain off. It helps me distract me from everything else I'm doing, right? Not that everything else I'm doing is so terrible that I need to be distracted, but if I'm not distracting myself, I find myself checking my YouTube dashboard a lot to see if new comments have come in or to keep an eye on the subscriber numbers or stuff. And sometimes I just need to not look at that. Sometimes I need to focus on something else, and hence my desire to play very challenging games. Although it's not just that, because I've been playing challenging games for fucking years, long before this channel ever got anywhere, and also before I even had a channel. I played Dark Souls before I started a YouTube channel. Obviously, the Dark Souls is not the be-all, end-all of difficult games anymore, but it sets a precedent, you know. But I suppose what I kind of wanted to analyze in this moment is balance in of itself and its applications, because much like many things in games, you would assume that just doing this standardly and correctly would be the way to go, right? Well, of course, the game should be balanced. It should be a fair and even challenge for the player to overcome, perhaps with the option to opt into harder difficulties to tilt that balance ever so slightly. You know, you get modifiers, and if you're playing like a roguelike, you'll get like run modifiers and shit like that to tilt things even further. Like playing Void War, for instance. Void War fucking shocked me because I beat my first run that I ever played ever, which doesn't typically happen for me in these kinds of games. For those of you who don't know, Void War is just FTL with 40k. Now, you might be thinking, oh, Foreman, you're oversimplifying. Surely there's a bit more to it than that. No, I'm not. It's FTL with 40k in it. When Games Workshop sued or threatened legal action against Void War, and that was a whole thing, and Void War was taken down for a while, I remember thinking, because I hadn't played it yet, I remember thinking to myself, wow, Games Workshop, really? Not very classy. Then I played Void War, and I was like, Games Workshop, that's still not very classy, but you may have had a point, because they use different terms, but it is the exact same lore. It is literally the same. It is just 40k FTL, but it's also very good because it's FTL. The fucking creator of FTL could have gotten a word in on that fucking potential legal proceeding as well, because it's just FTL with a couple extra mechanics sprinkled in. Having said that, it's really good because it's 40k FTL with a couple extra mechanics sprinkled in. Yeah, I may have wandered off topic ever so slightly on this one. The point is, the first playthrough is very balanced, and then if you choose to opt into the higher difficulties you unlock with each successful run completion, it becomes notably less balanced as time goes on. Fortunately, boarding actions in Void War are fucking nuts. So, if you want to create an army of machine slave clones to board the enemy ship and overwhelm them with numbers, you can do that. In fact, that's actually a very viable strategy. There are counters, and you might not live long enough for your army of very, very weak machine clones to overwhelm their defenses and destroy their crew, but it's a strategy, and it is a good one. And spells, use space magic, that's cool too. But Void War is definitely a game that struggles with its balance a little bit, because in normal FTL, boarding actions are something you definitely can lean into, though I never did. In Void War, I did nothing but. Once I discovered the power of boarding actions, couldn't be stopped. My crew spent more time on opposing ships than on their own ship. Our ship was empty most of the time because everyone was on their ship wearing high pressure fucking suits so they don't take damage from the vacuum, punching holes in their hull and just letting them all die. It's a good game. I actually genuinely recommend Void War. Very fun, but not balanced. But I believe games like this and Baratron 40k and XCOM 40k, they benefit from perhaps not a static imbalance. You know what I mean? It can be easy to present a game with the idea of like, oh, it's horribly unbalanced, it's very, very difficult. But to a certain degree, I believe that would wear someone down. If you're just sitting there struggling through a game and you are actively, cognitively aware of how fucking unfair the situation is, I reckon that would genuinely wear you down. You might be like, you know what, actually, I would rather go play a game where I'm being treated fairly. I would rather play badminton with someone who's not got their mate off on the side pelting me with tennis balls while I'm trying to play, right? I think I'd rather just play a normal fucking game of badminton. I think this whole, like, fluctuating balance thing works definitely if it's a lot more fluid. In Void War, the balance can be wildly in your favor if you've built yourself right, but then you can go up against a ship that hard counters you and is ridiculous, and the balance is suddenly way in the other direction. It's not fair. You're not going to win that fight because shit just didn't work out the way you wanted it to. maybe you could win that fight, but it's an uphill battle. The balance shifts. On the other hand, you can go into boss fights in Void War with your ship that is perfectly built to take that thing apart, and they literally have nothing that can stop you, and you get massive rewards and a big fucking victory that you were practically guaranteed if you played your ship with any kind of base level efficiency. I think fluctuating balance is something that needs to be approached carefully, because if the dial swings too wildly in either direction too frequently, it starts to become... Well, it actually kind of takes the whole being challenged thing and engaging gameplay out of the equation, doesn't it? Because if it swings too hard in one direction where you're not even trying, then you're not even trying, you're not being engaged. If you swings too hard in the other direction and becomes basically impossible in the next instance, you're not being engaged, there's no challenge because you've already lost. There's no challenge in winning an impossible fight. There's no satisfaction in that. I can enjoy even fighting an impossible battle over a long period of time when that is presented to me as what is happening, right? Kind of like, what was the game called? Was it called Warsaw? Give me a moment to check my fucking Steam. I covered this game ages ago. Ages and ages and ages ago. It was kind of like a Darkest Dungeon clone-ish thing, based on the Polish uprising in World War II. Well, Steam's deciding it needs 15 minutes to load this time, so I guess we're just gonna sit here in silence until it fucking loads. Oh god, now I'm gonna have to... I haven't played that game in ages, so I'm gonna have to fucking find it. Oh, jeez. Hang on. Warsaw? Yeah, Warsaw. Yeah, Warsaw, which is a game which specifically says to you, hey, you can't win. It's impossible to win. Last as long as you can. And it turns out you actually can win, you just need to survive long enough to make it to a certain date. At which point the game goes, well... Obviously, you didn't win World War II, but you have beaten the game. You've done it. That is considered a success state. But I can enjoy that. But I think if you're going to have fluctuating and fluid balance in your game, you have to be even more careful, which is funny because you would think if you were leaning into such a concept, you would actually not need to put in that much work. So you're like, oh, okay, we've got a bit of leeway with our balance. We don't have to worry too much. No, you have to worry even more. Because like I said, if that dial flies too fast in either direction, the game ceases to be engaging and or challenging anymore. Of course, we see fluctuating balance in all kinds of things, like Slay the Spire, for example. I haven't played Slay the Spire 2 yet. I'm waiting for it to come out of early access. I want to go into Slay the Spire 2 with the full experience. Also, I bet people are already making mods for it, so I'll get to go in, get the full experience, and then play the mods and an even fuller experience. But that is admittedly a very interesting tangent for me, but it's still a tangent. Slay the Spire, you can become ridiculous. You can become completely absurd. By the same token, the bosses in that game can also be fucking absurd. It is, like I was talking about before, balance via both sides being overtuned to the extreme. Your enemy is overtuned, so you need to overtune even harder. Risk of Rain's also like this. Some of the damage values and health values of enemies in the later runs, or not later runs, but like later parts of the run, are nuts. They're absurd. You can get one-tapped so quickly, unless you're running a character who mitigates all damage by like 99% and regenerates their entire health bar in 0.7 seconds, which is a thing you can do. But while I enjoy these games very much, you know, I love Slay the Spire and I love Risk of Rain too, I don't think they quite represent what I'm looking for here, because a lot of the gameplay I prefer to engage in, it's just me, perhaps, but I prefer to engage in campaigns. I prefer to engage in long-form gameplay experiences, I guess, for a lack of a better term. I like Barotrauma for sailing across the entire fucking European ocean. That is a long-form, consistent thing that is carrying over, that is persistent. Persistent, I think, is what I'm looking for, right? XCOM 2, winning a mission is great. That does not win the war. It is a persistent campaign. Our Adventurers Guild, you know, you go out on a job and it's like, oh, you did the job, that's great. You really needed that money, but you still have to run an Adventurers Guild. I would highly recommend it, our Adventurers Guild, actually. Let me take a moment to just fucking break off on a tangent and recommend to you our Adventurers Guild. If you like the idea of managing an Adventurers Guild, you like decent class building and RPG mechanics, you like a Darkest Dungeon 2 style, or Darkest Dungeon 1 very specifically, style management, you like something that's a little goofy, and you don't mind too much if the visuals aren't Perfect. Our Adventurers Guild is actually shockingly good. I even reviewed it on, I have to review on Steam, which is not something I do very often. But I wanted to give it a bit more attention because the game is actually really fucking solid. I don't know how suitable it is for an LP format because, well, it's like Darkest Dungeon, but I would argue you spend a bit more time faffing about because there's a lot of the growth of your adventurers in your guild is a lot more, not a lot more in depth, but it's more in depth than it is in Darkest Dungeon. Every single adventurer has different levels of potential that they can reach in regards to certain stats. They can gain traits that aren't all just negative. Fuck you, Darkest Dungeon. I know there are positive traits, but there are so many more negative ones. You can give them training. You can specialize them towards certain classes. Random events give them unique traits and shit like that, and unique gear and whatnot. It's a very good game for being like, okay, don't rename every single one of your heroes and customize them, although you absolutely can if you want to. They're not taking that away from you. You can rename and customize and do everything you want to a character. I've got me in there, but that's the only one I've customized. Everyone else in there, I just let be who they are. I did not change them because they all started to develop their own personalities and they all became very interesting to me. Like Alan, leader of the Night Owls, which is a squad. You can create squads of adventurers in that game, and those adventurers will gain bonuses for working together more and more and can gain squad perks and stuff to get stronger and stronger. But yeah, I had Alan, leader of the Night Owls. I'm not being subtle with that one at all, but he was actually a spear user, not a knife user, and I liked him a lot. He was very cool. His name was originally Alan, which is why I gave it to him. But I had a lot of characters in there pop up. I remember I had one dude who was so clearly Mr. Shonen protagonist. He was like a magician or something, so I guess I was, in my mind, channeling some fucking anime that I haven't actually seen, but I've seen fucking screenshots of. And I was like, oh yeah, this kid here, he's gonna be little Mr. fucking anime protagonist pants, right? And I'm gonna set him up with a quirky little squad to represent that, like he's his own little fucking anime. Dude died after 3 missions, straight up got just absolutely bodied by something, and I was like, well, I didn't realize we were channeling Attack on Titan, but I suppose we are. I'll get back to our original point, but that name for you one more time, Our Adventurers Guild. Go have a look, see what you think. If you find it on sale, absolutely get it, because you can get a lot out of that game. It's a bit of a shaky introduction, right? Because like I said, the art style is not brilliant. I'm someone who doesn't need strong graphics, but I have to be okay with the art style. If I don't like the art style, it can turn me off in a massive way. And I will admit that Our Adventurer Guild nearly turned me off. But the thing is, the art style is a bit shaky on introduction, but honestly, I found the more I played it, the more I liked it. It really grew on me. Let's see, I've got 33.6 hours playtime in the game, which is approximately 30 hours more than I was expecting. I haven't even beaten it either. I need to go back to that at some point, but that was eating a lot of my time before I started playing Barotrauma 40k. That was the one before that. But I would recommend Our Adventurers Guild if you want something like that. It's very fun, it's got customizable difficulty, so you don't have to engage in a ridiculously min-maxy RPG if you don't want to. You can tone it down, or you can dial it the fuck up and min-max everything and watch your heroes die. Do whatever you want. But that was a very cool one. And you can do what I did, in which I took my character and gave him all the best shit, at which point he became completely unbalanced in terms of overall power, and that brings us ever so elegantly back to what we were talking about. I think balance can be manipulated to create an engaging gameplay experience, and also a narrative one as well. It kind of leans into what I've talked about before with games like Fallout 4. I'll just use Fallout 4 for this example, but playing that on survival mode, in which the game becomes wildly I'd say maybe unbalanced isn't necessarily the right term. In some cases, actually, it is, because some enemies are just armored to the point where you'll shoot them 20 times, they don't die. They shoot you 3 times and you do die. And in that situation, you're supposed to identify that, go, okay, I'll come back later when I can actually 3-tap you and back off. But the advantage of the world of Fallout 4 gaining so much lethality is that it gives the missions much more weight. I know I've talked about this many times, but more people filter into the channel every day. I can't assume everyone's heard everything I've said all the time. But the easy example I use is that when someone asks you to take down a fucking house full of raiders in Fallout 4 survival mode, that mission, that assignment, that thing that you have to go do suddenly carries weight, because you're like, well, this is going to be hard, because any one of those raiders could drop me really easily. I need to go have a look at the terrain, right? Is it open? Is it like an open plot? Because if so, I can pull out my rifle and start picking them off. If not, if it's like an instance where I have to go into a building, well, the rifle's not going to help me. I'm going to need to go close quarters. I need to go like SMG or shotgun and get ready to just be on a fucking swivel, right? Because they can drop me so quick. One Molotov can put you down. You need to be able to drop them before they throw the Molotov. But I enjoy those experiences where it feels like the game balance is leaning against me. Not too much, but enough for me to feel tested, enough for me to feel like an underdog, enough for me to feel like I'm overcoming adversity in a way that I not necessarily shouldn't, but it was unlikely that I would, or it feels unlikely that I would overcome that, you know? That I find very enjoyable. But I also do believe that this balance can be beneficial for a game if you tweak it in the opposite direction. Obviously, you get people who play like Doom 2016 who want the challenge from that, and I would probably be one of those people as well. But I can absolutely, without it even necessarily being the kind of gameplay experience I personally would want to engage in, I can absolutely see the value and the joy and the catharsis of playing Doom 2016 on like easy, on like baby mode. Because you just rampage. You just go in with the thumping fucking death metal track behind your ears, just smashing your way through hell. Yeah, I can see the appeal. 100% I can see the appeal on that. If you just tweak it so it's not really, so the odds are balanced in your favor. I guess I'm talking about fluid balance, but I'm really just talking about difficulty levels. I don't really think that's necessarily talking about balance at all. It's kind of silly of me, I guess, but I don't know. I appreciate a game, I guess, where the balance isn't set in stone, even based on the difficulty you choose. I appreciate a game that can kind of flow a bit more. Battle Brothers, some fights I absolutely crush, and some fights I barely get out of there with two brothers. I appreciate things being a bit more fluid, because it allows for surprises and it allows for notable encounters. Situations that stick in your brain and that you remember and help define your campaign, rather than having battles become a routine level of difficulty. This is why I don't really like level scaling, for example, where enemies scale to your level, because it's the game trying to make sure that every single combat encounter you have is notable, and as a result, none of them are notable. At least that's my opinion on it. Some people may prefer level scaling, and if so, fair enough, I can see the logic of it, but it doesn't quite work for me. I think some fights need to be an absolute fucking wash where you just crush them, so that some fights can be these monumental, ridiculous fights against impossible odds. I think you need that contrast. I think that kind of contrast is key to a lot of things. It's like how I tried to run my XCOM 2 campaigns as well, with the concept of I wanted to run with comedy and tragedy as the two contrasting concepts, right, for lack of a better term. I've seen people who will run these kind of campaigns and they just use a ridiculous amount of meme mods. And I've seen people say to me, oh, you need to get all of these meme mods for your campaign. And I'm like, no. This has to be, at least to some degree, grounded. There has to be some degree of not necessarily realism, but appropriateness, I suppose. Not because I'm a fucking fuddy-duddy who needs everything to be very serious, but because comedy doesn't improve by being deployed in quantity. Which is pretty funny coming from me, because all I do is just shout shit all the time, and I put up videos frequently. I get it, I see it, don't worry, I'm aware, I'm self-aware. Or I like to think I am anyway. But my point is that in order for XCOM as a series to shine, it needs that contrast. It needs to be serious, then it needs to be lighthearted. It needs to be funny, then it needs to be tragic. It needs that meld, that blend, that combination of both together. If it was all just fucking fart jokes and knob gags for like fucking 50 episodes, I just don't think it would land very well. I think people would really enjoy it to begin with, but then would fall off pretty quick. Whereas if it was all serious, people would be like, kids, do you think you could lighten up a bit? You know, like crack a joke, smile. I think that combination is what would make it the most interesting. I don't fucking remember how this relates to the point that I was presenting, but I've just woken up, so I get to fucking fly off the rails as much as I want. You gotta tell me what to do. Not that you do. But even if you did, you couldn't. Not me. I guess you could apply this to something like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines as well. At the start of that game, you are pathetic. You are so pathetically shit, you can't use a gun to save your life, the melee is and you have no powers. But by the end of the game, fucking fan-firing the revolver whilst, like, casting spells and shrugging off damage, you become a real one. Which, once again, is that fluid balance or is that just gameplay progression? It feels like fluid balance because Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines is a game that spikes in difficulty and then that spike goes back down for a long time. And then up and then down and then up and then down. It's not a gradual ascent. You start off shit and therefore any fight you get into is not in your favor. You get stronger, but then the game throws something at you that is absurdly powerful. Like the fucking sewers in, like, I want to say Act 2 or so is fucking vicious. And that house with all the fucked up shit in it is also fucking vicious. I think I'm gonna have to name this video something completely different to what I've said in the video, because I don't think I'm talking about, like, fluid balance. I think I'm just talking about difficulty levels and difficulty progression. I think I've come on here like a fucking tech bro and tried to invent something new. Like, invent a new term, and people are like, yeah, that's just this. That already exists. What the fuck are you talking about? So I failed. But, you know, the whole point of Foreman Talks is it's the journey, not the destination, right? We don't necessarily have to, I don't necessarily have to come on here and act like I'm the smartest motherfucker who's ever lived. I just want to talk to you guys and spark a discussion, or bare minimum, just give you something to listen to, right? Fuck it, I'm gonna completely pivot and just talk about my experiences, which seemed wildly unfair to begin with, but I managed to claw back. Like Etrian Odyssey, right? The first one, which I need to continue with, actually, because I really want to continue playing that. When you first start that game, it's fucked. It is utterly fucked. You get stomped so much. Well, maybe, the first floor is okay, I guess, but the second floor is where you start to get stomped a lot. And I've heard legends through the grapevine that you actually get stomped way more later on. I'm on like the third biome. I think there's more. And people keep rubbing their hands with glee whenever I talk about the game, which implies that there are later on points where I'm going to get absolutely gutted. So that's exciting. But I remember that the first two floors of Etrian Odyssey, I spent a long time there because I was playing on the hardest difficulty for a start. That definitely had an effect. Also because the fucking gap in enemy power between floors 1, 2, and 3 are fucking staggering. And I literally mean floors 1, 2, and 3, not biomes 1, 2, and 3, floor 1, 2, and 3. The first 3 floors. First floor, it's a bit rough, but you can push through it, you know? You just need to do a little bit of fighting. Second floor, it's fucking long, and there are enemies down here who will clean your clock. All right, we're gonna need to spend a while here. Third floor, first thing you find, aggressive enemy that hunts you down and fucks you up. And you either need to go around it or get a lot stronger. I went around it, so I was like, well, I think I can explore the rest of this area without necessarily fighting him and then come back later. And I did. And now I take those guys' lunch money for fun, right? So it all works out. Etrian Odyssey is balanced, I think. It's just also it's balanced, it's just mean. That's all. It's like, well, it's a game that in no way pretends that you aren't going to be grinding and you aren't going to be dying. And you aren't going to be going into a new area, getting fucked up and going, okay, I need to go back and prepare for this. The game fully leans into the idea that you're going to need to restart and try again a lot. And I can respect the game's honesty, I suppose. It doesn't beat you over the head with the idea, it just tells you through gameplay. And I think it tells you through gameplay quite elegantly on the first floor. There is a scripted encounter that you can avoid, you can absolutely avoid, and it's something so overtly like, you shouldn't do this, if you know what I mean. Like, you come to an area and the game goes, this area is so nice, do you want to just sit here for a bit? And you can say yeah, or you can say no. And if you say no, the encounter disappears forever, which makes me want to go try and avoid it and then go back there when I'm really strong, see if there's any fancy rewards, right? But if you say yes, you get jumped by like 3 or 4 enemies from the next floor. You know that next floor I told you about where you get stuck for a while because the enemies there are actually quite strong? And you're like level 1. So you get obliterated, so you don't stand a fucking chance. And I remember I encountered that without having made a save, I think at all. So my campaign was actually over. It was just straight up gone. I had to start a new game, which was fortunate because I'd only been playing for like half an hour. But I remember that, and I was like, fuck, and I knew I was being baited. I knew that was an encounter where I shouldn't just sit down and fucking rest and do what the game says. This is an obvious trap, but I wanted to see what would happen, you know? And the game's save system, which is actually remarkably fair as long as you remember to fucking save, the game's save system is such that as long as you keep on the saves and make sure you're careful, you can go and blunder into these traps just to see what will happen. There's a fucking wyvern in the second biome that I was like, yeah, I'll have a fucking go. You know I didn't win. Obviously, I didn't win that fight. I knew I wasn't going to win that fight. There is no one who is under any illusion, both in my party, in myself, or anyone I would ever tell about that story, who would think that I would win that fight. But I got to try it anyway. Because I was like, it's a wyvern. I have to see if I can. It's like at the start of fucking Metaphor ReFantasio, when the game's like, there's a dragon, you better fucking sneak past it. And I was like, wake up, fight me. Get up, bitch, let's go. And that took a couple tries because I was also playing Metaphor on a harder difficulty, but I did it. You don't even kill it, it just wanders off. Fucking bullshit. I think my favorite example of things being wildly out of whack in terms of balance would probably be the Warhammer 40k mod for XCOM UFO Defense. And that's probably because I play as the Imperial Guard. But to be fair, original XCOM was never particularly balanced anyway. It was always a bit ridiculous, and the fucking 40k mod does nothing to remedy this. I play as the Imperial Guard, and you'll show up for a lot of missions in a Chimera, right? You have an armor column that you rock up to missions in, so when you start the mission, all your troops are in the APCs, and the APCs have guns on top that you can use to shoot at the enemy. And you might think, wow, Foreman, that sounds really fucking generous for an XCOM style game. My friends, this is necessary. This is crucial. This is vital. Because what happens in XCOM UFO Defense, for those of you who have not played, the game has an active Overwatch system. In that, actually, sorry, let me rephrase that. The game has a passive Overwatch system, the exact opposite of what I just said, in that you don't enter Overwatch. You don't give a soldier or a unit the command to enter Overwatch. What you do is that you end a soldier's turn with a certain amount of action points left, or time units as they're called in that game, and based on their reaction stat, if anything moves or takes an action nearby, they will automatically fire at it as many times as their remaining time units will allow. So if you're trying to hold down a position, you can just have your soldier fucking crouch and not use a single action that turn, not move, not do anything, and they will have the maximum amount of potential reaction shots they can possibly fire that turn. And you might think, wow, that sounds really strong, and it is. And the AI does it too. A lot. So what happens is, you rock up to these missions in your APC and you're like, all right, let's fucking get out. This is like the first time you play, right? And you're like, all right, let's get out there and sort out these fucking heretics or Xenos or what have you. One of your soldiers takes 2 steps out of the APC and 9 orcs gun him down with pinpoint accuracy. And you go, all right, well, you know, we're playing the Imperial Guard. This is to be expected. Let me send another one out. Gun down. All right, gun down. Gun down, gun down, gun down, gun down, gun down until all of you are dead. And you haven't even taken a fucking action. Because the Overwatch is insane and not balanced. And I swear to God, I swear, the orcs are too accurate in that fucking mod. The orcs are the most accurate fuckers on the battlefield, I swear. Even Chaos Space Marines don't land that many shots. The orcs are pinpoint accurate. Or it might just be volume of fire, come to think about it. I think they just fire so much that they inevitably hit. But no, I reject that. I've had an orc wander up with a fucking slugger, take 1 shot and cap my sergeant in the head. Instant death. No, the orcs are just too accurate in that fucking mod. But my point is that you rock up with your APCs and that happens and you go, okay, right, so use the APCs, right? The guns on top of the APC can knock out an orc or 2 and also draw the reaction fire, okay? That's great. But their guns chew through those turrets pretty quickly, and they don't last very long. And eventually those guns are destroyed, and you just have to send out your soldiers anyway. And you're like, well, maybe we've softened them up enough that this won't be so bad. And indeed, sometimes you've softened them up enough that you can actually get out and do the mission and finish it, although you will suffer heavy casualties in the process, but Imperial Guard, right? It makes sense. But there's a third method here, right? Use the fucking guns as much as possible on the APC and keep your troops in the APC on reaction fire to just gun down the enemy as they attempt to approach them, right? So the APCs are fucking lighting them up, and then all your troops are ready in the APCs to fucking shoot them and kill them all, and like, yeah, this will deal with them. Except, first of all, I swear to God the AI gets better reaction shots than you do. Obviously, this is probably just personal feeling rather than actual hard facts about the gameplay, but it definitely feels that way. They feel more accurate and they shoot more frequently, I swear to God. Especially the orcs. Second of all, grenades. I swear to you, not only will a grenade wipe out a squad of guardsmen, no question, which makes a lot of sense, it does, but it still happens. The AI's grenade throws are perfect. I mean perfect. I mean, they fuck it up maybe once every 2 months, like real time. They just don't fuck up their grenades at all, ever. They always land them perfectly, and you lose an entire squad. If your squads are all stuck in an APC, they're done. They are done. That grenade will fuck them up. But what other option do you have? Walk outside and get shot in the head by a sniper orc with 300 hours on Modern Warfare? Or stay in the APC and get fragged? As irritating as XCOM 40k is, and believe me, it gets fucking annoying, that is a situation where it feels like the lack of balance is appropriate to an extent. The orcs' accuracy is still ridiculous, but also they don't go into melee nearly frequently enough, and you'd think they would, being orcs. But the lack of balance feels appropriate because, of course, my people are dying in mass. They're Imperial Guardsmen. That is literally their job. That is literally what they do. That is their whole thing. I just wish what wouldn't happen is that every single mission, I would either suffer monumental casualties where my entire fucking side dies, but we still manage to clutch the win, or the commissar dies, the captain dies, and no one else dies. Literally only the commissar and the acting like ranking officer are the only two who dies, and everyone else is fine. Because an orc on the other side of the map fired his pistol and it whizzed straight into my commissar's head. It does get a bit ridiculous, but it does also teach you miss every shot you don't take. Shoot them. Just shoot them. Go for it. Try your best. You never know. You could be the orc that headshots everyone without even thinking about it. But I think I'll leave that there for today, friends. I appreciate that I attempted to come up with a new idea and failed, basically, but in regards to what I've talked about, what do you think? Do you prefer things to be a bit more rigid in terms of difficulty, or do you prefer it to be a bit more fluid, a bit more of a curve as opposed to a straight line, I guess? It's hard to say. I guess it really does depend on the game in general. I appreciate Ruiner for throwing like difficulty spikes every now and then. LobCorp has no balance. That's the end of that statement. LobCorp has no balance. It just is. And Limbus is obviously probably the most structured of the Project Moon games up to this point. All of these things work to and for these games' respective strengths and weaknesses. I personally, I guess I'm talking about this mostly from the perspective of like a persistent campaign type game like Barotrauma and XCOM. I prefer it to be a bit more fluid. I think there needs to be moments where your successes reward you with an easy victory, and then there also needs to be moments where you are barely hanging on. Like I said, it's the contrast. The yin and yang of gameplay, the fucking comedy and tragedy. I think these things are necessary for creating an ongoing dynamic experience in a persistent campaign game. But feel free to talk about this from the perspective of like normal games as well. I'm curious to see what people think. I'm also curious if anyone managed to pass anything relatively logical out of what I've said, because this has not been one of my smarter Foreman talks. But that's what happens when you've just woken up, right? But regardless of that, I do hope you enjoyed it at the bare minimum. Friends, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Special thanks to our members and patrons: AKFT1M40, Fladen, Uvlaka, A, Anarchy, RT22, Cosmo, Cassie Madness, Boomer2935, Catra Stahl, Red High, Spectrum, The Lord of Moth, Him Percy, Ego, Franklin Merlo, Engie DePooch, The KV2 Menacing, Boyby Bay, Red Star, Kim Taker, Alcavia Calf, Hotcherman, Christopher Hoos, Donut, Honor D, Angel of Chaos, Geigen, Callie, Prince Lemons, Moon God Megan, Volwolf Miscreant, Rakariku Crescent, Tony the Horse, Slide Hexara, Abyssal Angie, Princeps Jacomi, Super Sidix, Skyhub, Mighty BH, Ancestor, Anthelians, Gage Johnson, Saga, Rory, Jack, Ninja Dog, Emma Fox, Grand Captain General Peace, Mean Baby Back Turtle, Cuds, Canis Mario, Portrait of Black Life, Steel, Unclever Name, Summer Cat, Flanny, Pinch Tune, Proxy, Caminero, Mo, Harry, Dresso, Slow, Everbin, Licky, Xeno, Set of Pinball, Out Care, Honeydew, Sweet Baby Red, Just Kitty, Sony Pie, Jimmy Ghost, Apple, K-Bub, Magic Owl, The Frostbite, and SCP 106A. For support me on YouTube and on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you all so much for watching. I like this idea of doing a Foreman Talks to cover up the gap in the upload schedule when I'm doing recording days. But I think I need to bring my A game a bit more than this. Instead of just wandering in with a hastily constructed topic and just winging it. It is fun. I liked doing it. It's not as if I didn't have a good time. But for the sake of giving you Side Guys something a bit more cohesive and a little bit more not shit, I might need to do that. Someone did mention the idea of taking topic submissions and then spinning the wheel for them, and that's not a bad idea. I might do that. Maybe I'll set something up. What topics do you want to see? What questions do you want to ask? What are you thinking? Where's your head at? Put your hands up. Let me know. Let me know if there's anything particular you want to hear me talk about, or if you have questions, or I guess, can we do an Ask Me Anything? I don't think I'm big enough to do an Ask Me Anything. I don't think I get enough questions. I have an Ask Me Anything channel on my fucking Discord, but can I do an AMA video? Am I big enough? Reading your comments? Is that a thing I can do? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I'm just trying to share out. Like, this is incredibly informal. Foreman Talks has always been incredibly informal. I'm gonna take an informal approach to it because I think trying to optimize how much potential fucking engagement and revenue and what have you for this is not really the way to go about it. It's a little bit of extra bonus content for fun, just to tide you guys over until we get to the real shit. But I would like to make it better if I possibly can, so let me know. But I digress, I'm rambling, don't worry about it. Thank you so much for watching. Whatever happens next time, hope I see you there. Doodles, goodbye.